we are live and we should see attendees coming in. Let's just wait for 1 more minute for more people to join and then we can get started. In the meantime, why don't you tell us if you're a current Leadfeeder user or you're new to the brand? You can type in the chat, please. Or if this is too boring for you, you can tell us, where you're joining in from.
We're seeing Canada, Germany, Chicago. Where else have we? Belgium.
Belgium, yeah.
Seattle. Must be early in Seattle.
All right, I can see a mix of responses in the chat. Thank you for your response. I think we can get started. And before that, I just want to set the tone here. So if you have any questions during the session, you have Q&A box. So send in your questions and we will answer them whenever possible or at the end of the presentation. Also, please avoid sending your questions in the chat box. Please use the Q&A box for that so we don't miss out on answering some of the questions. And we're recording this webinar, so you should receive the recording in a few days. So you can play back and watch it later or even share it with your team. I guess that's all. We can get started. So good morning to everybody who's logging in from the States and good evening to everybody from the rest of the world. Thank you for joining our webinar today. So let me introduce the speakers now. I'm Sanjana and I'm the Product Marketing Manager at Dealfront and I will be your host today. And I have Dara with me. Patrick, unfortunately, has come down sick, so cannot make it today. So it's just me and Dara on the panel, and I'm going to let Dara introduce himself now.
Yeah, thanks for the intro there, Sanjana. Yeah, really looking forward to this one. Yeah, I've been working with Leadfeeder for about 5 years now. For most of that period, I've been running our PPC prior to the merger with Dealfront. And it's an area I've also done a lot of consulting work in with companies such as Slack and Teamwork and other B2B SaaS companies. But yeah, I guess like one thing that's always been like a struggle and a bit of frustration for me is that like tracking the impact of PPC for B2B companies is very challenging. A lot of the tools that we have on the market are built for B2C, and they just don't work very effectively in terms of showing what the true impact of the ads are for a B2B company. So yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of showing what we have that works in that space. I think it really helps. It really helps me anyway, and I think it'll help a lot of companies to get a better insight into what's happening with their B2B advertising. So yeah, it's something that we've been working on for a while, and I'm really excited to share with our customers how they can make use of this new integration that we have to offer.
Amazing. Thanks, Dara. And the agenda for today is very simple. As Dara said in the next few minutes, we're going to go through some challenges in tracking the impact of Google Ads integration and how to solve them with our Google Ads integration, some use cases as well, and how we use the integration internally, how to get started. And at last, we'll open it up for Q&A. So yeah, we'll get started now. I'm going to hand it over to Dara.
Yeah, thanks, Anjana. As I've kind of been mentioning there, I feel like there's a lot of challenges in tracking the impact of Google Ads and other PPC advertising for B2B companies. And I think the easiest way to like showcase some of these challenges is through like a real life example. So let's go through an example of a typical B2B buying journey. So if we take this kind of example that we have in front of us here, if we look at the visits from a specific company, you might have the first person come into your company and they might stumble across your brand via a blog post. They're looking for an issue that they currently have and they're looking for a solution for that issue. And they just stumble across a blog post that your brand might have written and it really like resonates with them. So a couple of weeks later, the issue pops up internally within the company again, and they remember that blog post that they were looking at. So they go back and look for it and search for that solution again. And this time they do their second visit by clicking on a PPC ad that you've shown for that search term. So that first person, they visit the blog first, and then they come back via a paid search campaign. The next day, they're talking with one of their colleagues, either on a call or internally in meetings within the company, and they talk about this kind of solution that they're looking at. And that person, after that discussion, decides to go back and search for this company's brand again. And again, they kind of maybe go and they do a search and they click on an ad that company has been running. So that's the second person within the company. Both of these people, they kind of agreed that this product would really help them out. So in their next team meeting, they decide to bring it to their manager, and they talk about how this solution could really solve some of the issues that they're having internally within their team. So post the meeting, the manager might go and search for that brand name that the company that they were talking about, and he ends up clicking on an organic listing and looks into it in detail, and sees that like it meets all the requirements that they're looking for. So finally, that third person, their manager, decides to go with the head of department. They have the purchasing power. They're the decision maker in terms of purchasing. So he goes and talks with them and talks about this kind of solution that he's been looking into. And he sends them via Slack a link to this product. And the head of department maybe clicks on the link and decides to go ahead and purchase it for the team because he feels like that's going to solve some of the issues that they've been kind of complaining about. So I think this kind of broadly represents the buying journey in B2B. There's multiple stakeholders involved, multiple people within the company, different visits. They rarely convert on their first visit to the website, and it's rarely just one person in the company that you're trying to sell this product to. But how would you go about tracking this? So let's actually maybe poll this and see what our users think in terms of like, how do you think this would be attributed in Google Ads or Google Analytics? Like which channel would this be attributed towards? Is it either the first person coming in and it's via the blog? Is it via paid search? Like we've 2 visits from paid search there. Is it organic? Is it direct via Slack, or maybe it depends on the attribution model or a mix of them? Like how do you think that would generally get attributed in Google Ads or Google Analytics or any other attribution system that uses cookies?
I'll just give 30 seconds. We've got 60 responses now. We'll just wait for 30 more seconds for everyone to answer. The winner as of now is depends on attribution model.
That are final results, Sanjana.
Okay, I'm just ending the poll and sharing results.
All right.
Here we go.
Yeah, go for it, Sanjana. Go for it, Sanjana. So I think
so that's the
yeah, I think we have nearly half of people think it depends on the attribution model, which I think I can see why people are picking that model. Paid search is coming next, 36%. Then we have 11% for organic, 7% for blog, or sorry, 9% for blog, and 9% for direct. So what if I told you that the answer that people picked the least is the correct answer? Because Google uses cookie-based attribution, they cannot tie the sessions from different people together within a company. They can only track the same user on the same device. So the only attribution that they'll be able to kind of tie in terms of that is the last session from that user, which was came via Slack. Slack is generally tracked as direct because it doesn't pass referrals. So unless there's like a specific UTMs added to Slack links, they usually show up in the direct results, as do all other internal chat systems. A bit of a challenge in terms of tracking the impact via them all the time. So yeah, that is the challenge that we have in front of us there. And you can see, I'm sure we have a lot of very kind of smart and capable PPC managers on this call, but we only got 9% correct results, which shows that people don't know how much of an issue this is for them. So it doesn't matter if it's Google Ads, Bing Ads, Facebook Ads, they're using cookie-based tracking, which only works on the same device for the same user. So they cannot tie together sessions that come from different people within the same company. And as we know, and I've demonstrated in this example, like usually a buying journey in B2B involves multiple stakeholders within the company, multiple visits from multiple different channels on a lot of different devices. And when you're using a cookie-based attribution model, such as Google Analytics, Google Ads, Bing Ads, Facebook Ads, it's only looking at that last person, the person who converted. All the other people are not taken into account. So their visits are not taken into account and not seen as being valuable. This is where Leadfeeder can help. And because Leadfeeder use company attribution, we tie all the visits from the same users in the company together, and then we can look at the entire journey across multiple people within the same organization. And we'll be able to show you like that there's been multiple stakeholders from that organization looking at your website. They've come in via multiple channels, and you can see what different channels have like impacted the conversion path. A lot of the channels probably didn't result in any direct conversions, but in the background, they're influencing the stakeholders to move forward with it. So in this example, in my opinion, the person 4 is probably the least important in this process. The purchasing decision was pretty much made before they got there. The other channels prior to this have played a bigger role in you acquiring that customer. Yes, they have the purchasing power and the person that buys at the end of the day, and they are a stakeholder, but we need to influence the other people, and that's happened via the other channels upstream, and we should be recognizing the impact that these have. And it can equally happen in the opposite way. If that person 4 came in via Google Ads, but none of the other people had a session via Google Ads, you can be over attributing the impact of your Google Ads, and it might not be playing as much impact as you actually think. So that's just kind of explaining the problem that we have in front of us. And I think the lack of awareness of how much of an issue this is and the impact it's having in terms of your attribution of your revenue for Google Ads is really important. But it's not the only issue and challenge that's available there. And like some of the other issues is there's a 90-day limit on the tracking for Google Ads. A lot of B2B sales cycles are longer than this, especially if you count the time from the first ad click towards purchase. In a lot of companies, it's going to be longer than 90 days. If that's the case for your company, like Google Ads is probably underestimating the impact of your Google Ads. If B2B purchase involved multiple decision makers, as I mentioned in the last slide, it just cannot tie them together. It's just not showing you the impact of them influenced kind of stakeholders early on in the process. A big one that I always come across is like, it generally is valuing all conversions equally. It's again, it's designed for B2C where generally the kind of value of each customer is reasonably more or less the same. In the B2B landscape, it's very different. You could have some leads that are completely worthless for your company, and you have some leads that result in huge deals for your company. What Google does, it takes the average of them, and so this is like the average value of them, but they're not all the same, and some of them should be valued more than others. You can get around this a bit with some value-based bidding, but it's not always in place in a lot of companies. In terms of cross-device tracking, yeah, Google will claim that they can do this, but the way it works, if you read the documentation, is that it only tracks cross-device if the user is logged into the same Google account on both devices. If the company isn't using Google or Gmail as their kind of internal email system, then them users aren't going to be logged into the same Google account on their phone and on their desktop in a B2B world. So like it doesn't really work very well for most B2B companies that aren't using Google and aren't logged into the same Google account on both devices. So that's another issue. Like it's just a real struggle to identify keywords that generate revenue. So as I mentioned, it kind of values all conversions equally. So you can't easily find out the keywords and the ad copy that's bringing in your best customers, that's bringing in the highest value accounts. It's just really hard to tie them two things together. Attribution models struggle with multiple touch points. I think we showed that in the example when there's a lot of touch points from different customers. It can be like overvaluing some touch points and undervaluing other touch points. Another big issue, number 7 here on the list, is that you cannot see what campaigns your accounts are reaching until they submit a lead form on your website. You don't know what type of customers or companies are interacting with your ads. So you don't really know if your accounts are or your ads are reaching the right accounts. You have to wait until you get some conversions in to see if they're attracting in the right accounts. But then it's only, again, showing you a very small percentage of the actual people that are interacting with your accounts. So you don't really know if you're wasting money in certain areas or that you could be investing more in this area because it's bringing in the right amount of accounts. And lastly, number 8 on this list here is that connecting online ads with offline sales is very difficult. You know, the whole B2B buying landscape just doesn't all happen online. A lot of stuff can happen online, offline, and Google has very few ways to try and kind of correlate them two things together. So these are just some of the challenges. There are others with tracking B2B Google Ads. As I said previously, this system is built for B2C, and you're more like hacking it to try and make it work for B2B. There's just a very different buying model on the B2B side, and the way that the tracking is set up in all these kind of cookie-based attribution models, it just doesn't really show a true reflection of the buying journey in the B2B landscape. So yeah, that's just kind of an overview of some of the challenges. And in the next section, we'll go through how we might be able to solve some of them with Leadfeeder. But before that, we'll just take another poll. So Sanjana, if you want to take over.
Things to answer.
So yeah, we're just looking here for like which one of these challenges have you encountered? It might be one, it might be it might be multiple, it might be all of them. Maybe it's something else that you can use the other button for. So yeah, we're just kind of wondering like which one of these challenges is most relevant for you, and we can spend a bit more time talking about the one that is of most value.
We've got 88 responses, so I'm gonna end the poll now. Let's see the results. Who's the winner? Longer sales cycle. It's interesting to see that longer sales cycle is a significant concern for many of you. I mean, like this aligns with what we've observed in the industry as well, you know. So let's dive deeper into how Leadfeeder's Google Ads integration can help you overcome some of these challenges. So I'll just pass it on to Dara again.
Yeah, I think it's interesting here also on the poll, see Sanjana, that like I think a lot of people have voted for multiple here because like a lot of them are up near 50%. So a lot of these kind of issues are resonating with a lot of people, I think. And yeah, you can see like reaching the right accounts. Over half the people just don't know if they're reaching the right accounts. I think that's something that we can talk through a lot and give a lot of insights into. And yeah, the revenue-based ones I think are always important. Like tracking the revenue from conversions is quite a challenge for a lot of companies. It can be very hard to get access to that data, and also in terms of identifying the exact keywords and ad copy that's working in terms of generating revenue. I mean, in any company that I've been in, that's nearly always been a really difficult thing to tie the two things together. So yeah, we can go through some of these issues and see what kind of solutions that we have in place to try and address them. So yeah, how do we look at solving some of these issues? We're going to go through 10 different use cases here in terms of how you could actually solve some of these. We'll only spend a couple of minutes on each. There are like detailed guides in our help center and our blogs in terms of how to exactly put these into practice. So if you want any more details, please reach out to our support, or if you have a CS manager, reach out to them and they'll happily guide you through some of these use cases and how to kind of set them up for you. So the first one we're going to take a look at is multiple decision makers. As we kind of pointed out in the example earlier on, like Google's only tracking person 4 over here. So when you use Leadfeeder, you're going to get the full visibility on all the users, and it's going to tie them together into nice one company overview of the journey of that company through the process. So just by using like Leadfeeder, you're going to get a wider view in terms of how that entire company was influenced, not just one individual that submitted the lead at the end of the day. So that's just like one clear example in terms of how it can be used to track across multiple individuals within a company. So yeah, as I said previously, Google uses cookie-based attribution. There's a limit in terms of 90 days in terms of how long it stores them cookies on the website. So if there's a longer sales cycle than that, Google Ads is probably underestimating the impact of your campaigns. I would say even if your sales cycle is like between 30 and 60 days, it's going to struggle because that's the time of your sales cycle. It's not the time it takes from the first ad click, and there might be multiple visits before they submit a conversion. So anything even above 30 days, 45 days, I think Google is going to struggle to show the full impact of that because there will be ad clicks happening earlier on in the journey. And this is where Leadfeeder comes in, like where our IP-based tracking system doesn't have like a limit on that. You can see the visits going back for years there if you're using Leadfeeder for that length of time. And you can start looking at the attribution and see which other channels have played impact earlier on in the attribution and see like how they led towards kind of conversion for that account. So yeah, you can extend past the 90-day limits. And actually in one of the examples I'm going to share and how we're using it, there was an account that first interacted with us over 2 years before they purchased. And this is kind of the sort of insights you can get when you're using Leadfeeder. So it gets rid of that 90-day limit for you. A third kind of way that this can be used is terms of like tracking revenue from influence deals. So as we've kind of just talked about a few times, like B2B buying journeys are complex. Like they're not one user on one device, they're multiple users across multiple devices, often in different locations as well. And this is where you need to be able to look at the company as a whole in terms of like how many people from that company are coming to your websites. And as we pointed out, cookie-based attribution is only going to look at the person who submitted the conversion. So if we take this example here in front of us, person number 3, they submitted the lead. They're the only one that a cookie-based attribution model is going to look at. But what you can do when you're using Leadfeeder is you can look at the visits from other individuals, even though they may have never submitted a lead on your website, you can see that person 2, they spent the most amount of time researching the product. They're the ones that view the help center. They're the ones that are reviewing your product videos. They were looking at all the detailed information. So they were probably the most influential person in the buying process because they were the one that was doing the detailed research in terms of is this product meet all the requirements for them. And when you look at that information, then you can kind of split out the attribute revenue based on which ones that you think are playing the biggest role on it. And sometimes it's going through them on a case-by-case basis and seeing which ones, like if you have really big value deals and a low volume of them, it's nearly best to just go through, like you can come up with attribution models, but sometimes it's best to just go through and take each deal as it is and see which channels you think are playing the biggest role in that deal. And in this example, like you could be splitting it out that person two, he was the most influential. Person three, they had a role to play as well. So you're giving them 30%, and person one was probably the least influential. In the overall process, so you're only giving them 20%. But that's the kind of breakouts that you can make. Whereas if you were just using cookie base, that entire 10,000 sale would then go to person three, which is probably not really reflective of the importance that some of the other role channels played in terms of that conversion point. Day-to-day campaign optimization is like it can be really enhanced with the Google Ads integration and Leadfeeder, because as people were saying, as the biggest issue, they can't track the keywords to the revenue. So what you can do is you can see the exact keywords that are bringing in your highest value accounts. So I think people were struggling to track the reach of their campaigns to the target customers. So within Leadfeeder, you can create feeds for every campaign, every ad group, and see which ad groups or keywords or campaigns are bringing in the best quality customers, and equally the ones that are bringing in the lowest value accounts for you. So you can manage your spend and put more of the budget towards the campaigns, keywords that are bringing in the best customers, and take the money away from the campaigns that are bringing in the least valuable customers. I actually find this one particularly useful early on, like, you know, if you've just launched a new campaign and you haven't got much conversion data yet, you know, you're waiting in that early period of like, is this campaign working? Are we reaching the right types of customers? This is like immediately in the first few minutes and hours, you can start to see the companies that are starting to come in from that campaign. And it's like, oh yeah, that's actually getting the right type of customers, or that ad group is reaching good customers, but this ad group is not reaching good customers. So you can kind of start to optimize the campaign a lot earlier in the process than you would usually do when you're waiting on the conversions, because it can take a while for you to kind of see a trend in terms of the conversions coming in. And we can also pull some of this data into, we have an integration with Looker Studio if you want to kind of create better visualizations or specific dashboards for you to easier keep an eye on this. Multiple touch points, yes. So Google generally relies on like this one conversion model, that like the person who submits the form is the most important person. As we kind of mentioned a few times now, B2B buying journey is a lot more complex than that. And a lot of it is about influencing different stakeholders at different steps of the process. So within Leadfeeder, you can track when companies are watching videos, when they're downloading files, what pages they're viewing on their website, if they're submitting forms, if they're signing up to newsletters, that sort of like micro conversions early on in the process. And you can see like when different customers in the company are taking these attributes. And I'll come on to this later on. You might even want to send your sales team to follow up with these people before they've submitted a lead. So when you can see that people are taking these actions, you might want to get your outbound sales team to kind of start following up with these accounts. But it gives you like insights into the buying journey before they've converted. You might see that, you know, our best customers usually watch the videos before they sign up, or they might read the specific article that we have, and that produces the best customers. And then you can use that for optimization. You might place that video or article in a more prominent position on the landing pages that you're using. So you can kind of see what actions specific people are taking on your website, and this kind of can give you a better insights into how to optimize your landing pages or your campaigns. Offline conversions. I think this one is really nice for anyone who struggles with attributing to offline conversions. It mightn't apply to everyone, but I think anyone who's in this position like really struggles with this. So yeah, like without just general Google Ads, I don't think there's any effective ways to track offline conversions. There are some tools available. I'm not sure how effective they are. But what you can do when you use a combination of Leadfeeder, our Google Ads integration, and our CRM integrations if people aren't aware, we have integrations with all the major CRMs, and they're a really powerful feature. And by integrating both Google Ads and the CRMs, you can see when a company clicks on an ad, and then later an opportunity is opened up. It doesn't really make any difference if the opportunity is opened up via like an online form or via an offline channel like phone calls, emails, in-store purchase. With the CRM integration, you will be able to see opportunities that are opened up for that account later on. And sometimes there will be an influencing factor from the Google Ads. You might see that like one day after they clicking on an ad, an opportunity comes in and is opened up for this account. So you can be able to tie the offline world with the online world through Leadfeeder, where you're tying visits or clicks on your Google Ads to something that then happens in the offline world and results in an opportunity in your CRM. So it's quite a nice little trick for anyone who is struggling with offline conversions. Yeah, low quality leads. I think everyone who runs Google Ads knows that like some leads are valuable, some leads are very low quality, and you kind of get a mixed bag when it comes in. So because you're kind of counting every conversion as of equal value when you have a form on there, like some of them are going to be really high value for you, other ones are going to be or little of no value to the company. Because Leadfeeder looks at the companies and we can show you the exact companies that are visiting your ads and if they've converted on your website, then you can kind of filter out the irrelevant or low quality leads and just see the ones that are of value for you. Equally, if they even haven't converted, as we discussed earlier, you can see the companies at that stage as well. So it gives you better control over the types of companies that your campaigns are reaching. You can even go a step further. If you have a very specific ICP for your product, then you can create specific filters in Leadfeeder using them industry, employee size, locations that you're looking after, and just look at the companies that you're attracting in that ICP. So you're able to kind of get very niche in terms of the types of companies that you're reaching and go down to the ones that are of most value for you and look which campaigns, which ad copy, which keywords are actually reaching that type of customer and optimize towards that. Yeah, cross-device tracking. As I mentioned previously, you know, Google makes big claims about cross-device tracking, but they only track users on the same when they're logged into the same Google account on both devices. And I don't think that's the case for most B2B customers. They're generally not logged into a Google account on their laptop and on their phone. Maybe if they're using like Gmail for Business, they are, but in a lot of accounts, it's not the case. So it's not able to track them together. Leadfeeder is using like company level tracking, using IP addresses and other company level attributes. So we are able to track together visits from different employees in the company and across different devices. So this can just give you a bit better view in terms of the cross-device kind of view that your customers are having before they're interacting with your product. So it's just a nice way to tie visits from multiple users in the same company together. Awareness advertising. Yeah, I think again, this is an area that like Google really struggles to track the impact of, and even more so for B2B space. So if you've ever tried Google Display and or YouTube or any of them kind of awareness-based advertising on Google, I think most people just say it's not working for them. Maybe that's the case, or maybe the tracking is not working for them. So because there's such a long sales cycle between someone seeing an ad and actually like submitting a lead, they can not be able to track that together. And as all the other issues that we've mentioned previously with multiple users in the same company, like maybe it's an influencing factor for one person, but that's not the person who submits the lead for the company. So that wouldn't be tracked together as well. But even without that, I think a lot of awareness advertising is just making sure that your brand is getting in front of the right accounts, particularly in the B2B space. Google has no way to track that. They have no way to tell you that your ads have been showing to your target accounts. This is where Leadfeeder can be really effective in terms of display advertising. So we can show you all the companies that have clicked on your awareness advertising. So you can get a sense very early on if your awareness advertising is reaching the right type of accounts. So it allows you to kind of really granularly track like which type of your awareness ads are reaching the right type of customers. Yeah, and even if they don't produce any or many direct conversions, it'll give you a gauge on whether the intended audience is kind of interacting with your ads online, which is a real help in terms of awareness advertising, because it is quite hard to kind of track the direct impact from them campaigns. And last but not least, I think one thing that any company that has like a sales team can do to just get more value out of your ads. Like I think in most companies, their advertising spend is like one of the biggest costs for the company. How do you make sure that you're getting the most out of that? So one easy thing you can do with Leadfeeder, and something that we do internally, and I'll talk through it in more detail in the next section, is that those companies that come to your account or come through to your Google Ads and click on an ad and browse your website, show some sort of buying intent, but don't submit a lead. Well, in normal world, you don't know about these. You don't know what companies they are. You've no way to know. You don't follow up with them. But if you see some of your highest value target accounts coming in, interacting with your website, taking a good look around, looking in detail, showing a lot of intent, why not pass that information directly on to your sales team to have a follow-up with them, give them a phone call, an email, see if they're interested, see if they want to chat about it anymore. And with Leadfeeder, that can be done very easily via some of our CRM integrations. You can automatically open tasks for your sales team to follow up with them, or even easier, we just do it via Slack and send that lead to your sales rep via Slack. Let them know that these companies are having a look around. This is a target account that you're after. Why not reach out now? You probably have a better chance of getting a response to that cold outreach now than you had before they started interacting with your ads. So you can do it via Slack, via email, or as I said, via your CRM. And yeah, it's something that we've been doing internally for years, and I think it produces really good results. And it's just another way to get a bit of extra value out of your Google Ads, because it's such a big cost investment. It should be really trying to follow up with anyone who's kind of showing interest on your website. And I'll talk more about this specific one in the next section on how to set that up. But in the meantime, I'll pass it back to Sanjana.
Thanks, Dara, for going through all the 10 use cases in a detailed manner. So if you want to read more about these use cases, there is a blog link in the chat section. You can just go through that. And if you have any further questions about it, you can just reach out to our support and we'll be happy to answer them for you. Now let's move on to our next section. This is the most, this is the favorite section for both of us, as we're going to show you how we use Google Ads integration ourselves. We've been using it to track the impact of our paid ads since the launch of this integration, and we are seeing great results. So we can't wait to show you everything we do. Dara, over to you again.
Yeah, and I need to actually thank Patrick, who unfortunately hasn't been able to make it today because he's off sick, for putting this section together. He's the person who's in there day to day managing this. I used to do it a while ago, so I do know how it's set up. But he's the guy who put this section together, so we'll have to thank him. But I will present it on his behalf today. So, like, I think one of the challenges, as we've kind of established, is like what keywords are driving our ICP. Without Leadfeeder, you only get to see the companies that submit the leads. That's usually like less than 10% of the overall visits to your website. You get no insights in terms of the rest of the companies that have came in, and it's very hard to determine which sort of keywords are having the best impact in reaching your target customers. It's a real challenge, I think, for a lot of B2B companies. I think a lot of them are wasting money on keywords that are probably not attracting their ICP, and maybe under-investing in keywords that are attracting their ICP. So in terms of trying to solve that within Leadfeeder, it's pretty simple. Just create a custom feed for your Google Ads visits. all you need to do is put a filter for source from Google CPC. And if you want to segment it out by campaign, just put in the specific campaign name there. If you'd like to put in more like additional kind of criteria like your ICP, you can put in like industry employee filters. You could also filter by specific intent, like people who visit the pricing page, and that's going to show you all the customers that are coming in from your Google Ads campaigns and which ones are attracting the most relevant customers. If you want to go deeper, you can spread it out by ad group and keyword as well, and kind of get more deeper insights into which types of companies are coming in via each campaign and each ad group. It's going to look something like this. When you go into the product, you'll be able to go into a specific company and you'll be able to see the exact campaign name, ad group, keyword, landing page, and also any other action that they've been taking on the website, what pages they visited, what their exit page was, what their entry pages were, how long they spent on each page, if they watched any videos, downloaded any content. You'll get a very good insight into like which campaigns are driving the most valuable customers to it. And then you can start optimizing towards these. So if you see a specific keyword is attracting the best customers, you're going to like start optimize towards that, put more money into that. You might see keywords that are attracting in completely irrelevant companies for your brand, and you probably take budget away from them areas. And as I mentioned in the last section, like you can follow up with these customers before or companies before they even submit leads on your website. So as soon as these customers start engaging with your website, why not like send that across to your sales team to follow up with? This is something that we've been doing via Slack, as you can see here. Just immediately as them companies are viewing the website, our sales team can get a ping and say that one of our target accounts is actively viewing the website. It's a good time for them to follow up. They're probably going to get a lot better response rates than they were from their cold emails that they've been trying to send previously. So it's just an extra way that we use to kind of follow up when our ICP customers are visiting the website. And we've closed plenty of deals just via that model where they've followed up with them at the right time. These were target accounts that we've been chasing maybe for a while, and everyone's busy. The right time for the outreach maybe is just when they're viewing your website because they know it's they're already looking at that solution for you. So that's just one area that we've been using so far, but there's other ways that we've been using as well. And I think like the first use case we looked at there is what's happening prior to conversion, but you can also use the Google Ads integration in reverse. And I think this is a really valuable one that people miss out on and forget. So looking at like your closed won opportunities and looking back at their buying journey and trying to understand like what are the key points in their buying journey, what channels are playing a big impact in that. So yeah, for our closed won deals, we can just trace them back in Leadfeeder, seeing where the original touch points were, what channels they interacted with in the meantime. And like I think this has always been like a very big challenge in companies, like getting any insights in the buying journey of won deals is hard. I think in the best case scenario in companies, you might get the first visit or the last visit, but how much does that really tell you about their journey overall through the product? So I think like tracking it back is a really interesting thing to do and see exactly the journey they went on to become customers. So just within Leadfeeder, it's a pretty simple setup as well. Like just create a custom feed again, put the source as Google CPC. You can also do it for any other channel or just leave out the channel and just look at all your won opportunities and see what the influencing factor is. And put the CRM opportunity status equals 1. So you have to have your CRM connected, obviously, for this to work. And then just look at their journey. Leadfeeder will give you a full timeline of how they interacted with your website over the years and see which ones are playing the most influential part in that. And I think this is best illustrated by an example. So recently we closed an opportunity. It's actually one of the biggest ever customers that Leadfeeder closed. And when we went to look in our CRM and when we look in Google Analytics, it showed up as direct. I think every marketer's worst nightmare in terms of attribution. We have no idea how this customer came to view us. So we were a bit perplexed about like, okay, what actually happened with this customer and how did we ended up like closing this enormous deal? So when to look in Leadfeeder, what data we had available for that, and what it's shown up was really, really interesting. It showed us that the first visit was on our blog in 2022. So more than 2 years ago, we first interacted with that customer. Their first blog post was just like about a problem-solving blog post that we wrote, and that was obviously an issue that they were encountering and looking for a solution for it. So we were building up the brand awareness at that point. Then not a lot happened for a while, but in the intervening period, over them years, we got views from 13 different employees at that company via 5 different channels. I think it was organic via our blog, Google Ads, Bing Ads as well, actually, and direct. So there was a lot of different people within that company. And what we've seen is like prior to conversion, we were getting more frequent visits from that company. They'd moved out from our blog and started looking at our help center articles, our product videos, and stuff like that. There was at least 3 visits from Google Ads and 1 from Bing Ads. And just prior to conversion, they started watching our product videos and our customer testimonials as well, which was something that we noticed with a few of our deals. When they get close to signing up, they start looking at our customer content. So this gives us a much, much clearer insight in terms of like the buying journey of this customer. Prior to looking at Leadfeeder, we just thought they came in directly. Who knows how they really found about us? But this shows us the complexity of like closing customers in a B2B landscape, and it gave us a lot more insights into what happened. So it's this web of different interactions from different employees within the company. There's no one clear channel that's playing the like most important role in this whole process. It's just building up that relationship with the customer over years and them actually kind of engaging with your brand, and that's actually resulting with them coming back to sign up for us over 2 years after they initially interacted with our brand. Now, obviously, that's not the ideal scenario, that we don't want people waiting for 2 years to sign up, but it shows you that like there is like a lot of channels that get undervalued in terms of building that first touch point with your customer base. And specifically when it comes to Google Ads, like if we hadn't this sort of tracking, there would be no revenue attributed to this huge deal that we closed. And when we actually looked through the tracking, there was actually 4 clicks from our ads, and a lot of them were important roles in just prior towards them converting and coming a lead for us. So that's the kind of types of insights you can look when you start looking granularly at your won deals and start to establish a buying journey of like the path that the users went on. And that information is only available like through a tool like Leadfeeder when you're looking in like the B2C based analytic tools like Google Analytics and Google Ads. They're pointing you towards a single attribution like touch point, which is just not telling you a whole lot about the journey that then customers went on.
Amazing. Thanks again, Dara. We are almost at the end of the webinar now. I hope you learned a thing or two from the webinar so far. Now, before I show you how to get started with using our Google Ads integration, I would just like to recap the key insights we've covered. So we discussed the common challenges in tracking the impact of B2B Google Ad campaigns, including issues with attribution, conversion tracking, and multi-channel touchpoints. And we also showed you how Leadfeeder's Google Ads integration addresses these challenges by providing deeper insights into your ads. And we also explored practical use cases. So you can read more about those use cases in the blog link that I shared with you in the chat. So yeah, with Google Ads integration, you can not only measure, but also enhance the true impact of your B2B Google Ads efforts. So moving on, for those already using Leadfeeder, you can integrate Google Ads with your, you can integrate Google Ads from your settings and start leveraging these insights immediately. So you just have to go to your settings page and click on account tab and just find integrations on the left side of the panel like shown here. Then all you have to do is just find Google Ads integration like shown on the right side panel and connect your account. That's all. And now, if you're new to Leadfeeder, then you should head to leadfeeder.com and start your 14-day free trial right away. You can then go to your settings page like I showed you in the previous slide and connect your Google Ads account with Leadfeeder and start using it. That's all from our side. So let's open the floor for Q&A now. We have a number of questions here and we only have 10 minutes left on the webinar. So we'll just take 2 to 3 very quickly. Let me just go through these questions. So there's one from Robert. He says, is there a methodology to assign value at each stage? I'm not sure which example you're referring to, Dara, if you know.
I remember the example that he's referring to. There are methodologies out there. None of them are perfect. There are like ones that are weighted closer towards the last deal. Some of them are weighted closer towards the first kind of touch point. Other ones put equal value on all touch points. If I would say that if you have like a lot of deals, you're going to have to pick one of these like standard models that puts like all the revenue towards like, you know, set buckets and percentages and stuff like that. My recommendation is that if you're not closing that amount, that huge volume of deals, is just look at them and kind of go through and see which ones like you think are playing the most important role on it, because it is very specific per an account. Like it's really hard to come up with a model that plays like that works well in each situation. So like I think that you could just kind of look at each one individually and kind of attribute based on that manner. If you're using a small number of deals, if using a large number of deals, I mean, I would, like in a B2B model, like the first touch point can be quite important. So I'd use something that kind of weights a small bit heavier towards that. The last touch point in B2B often feels like it's just the decision has nearly been made internally before that point. So, but it depends. You probably know your business better and understand like where is the most important touch points for your company.
Awesome. Next question is, will Leadfeeder track the search term in Google Ads or just the keywords from the ad campaign?
I think currently it's just a keyword, but I think that's an enhancement that could be coming down the line in the near future.
Exactly. Awesome. Then, does this integration allow us to create specific audiences based on the companies that have visited the website and their interactions?
This integration doesn't, but we actually do have that feature. It's called our Google Analytics connector. And what you can do with that is create custom audiences for Google Analytics, and then audiences can be shared with your Google Ads account. So it is possible to do that. You're just looking for a different feature. It's called our Google Analytics connector. It works for GA4, and yeah, if you're interested, just reach out and someone will show you how to set that up.
Cool. Next one, looking at page visits of contacts, often there is no total visit time mentioned. What does that mean?
Yeah, so the visit time, not just for Leadfeeder, but for pretty much most analytics tools, is calculated from the time from one page visit to the next interaction. So that interaction could be them downloading a form, or sorry, watching a video or going on to the next page. But in order to calculate time, you need them to do something else, and then the time is calculated as the time between them two events. It's the same way that works in Google Analytics and other analytics models. So if there's no time, it means that there was no second event and they left the website without completing a second event. Probably not so valuable. People to follow up with would be the short answer to that. Like I would focus on ones that are kind of going further in towards showing more intent on your website.
Amazing. One last question, but if you have more questions, just type in the Q&A. We have 6 more minutes, I guess. So is it possible to also identify visitors of our Google business page?
I don't think that's currently possible. you would need the ability to add like the tracking script onto that website, which I don't think you can. I haven't looked at it, but I don't believe that is currently possible for us to track unless they come from your Google business page towards your website. But I believe that that's probably not the journey path that they're on at the moment.
Right, so that's all. No more questions in the Q&A box. If any of your questions were unanswered today, please feel free to reach out to our support. You can do that via our support chat on the website, and we'll make sure to answer all your queries. That's all, I guess. So thank you all again for joining the webinar today. You will receive the recording in a few days. So keep your eyes on the inbox until then, and see you again in our next webinar. Thanks and bye for now.
Bye-bye.